Welcome to Keeping It Real, the largest podcast for real estate agents and by real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I am your guide and host through the show. Today is our monthly series called the Monday Market Minute with Carrie McCormick from the Carrie McCormick Real Estate Group with At Properties here in Chicago. Now, Carrie is a top 1% producer in Chicago with over 24 years of experience helping buyers, sellers, and investors. In fact, in the past 12 months, out of 46,000 real estate agents here in Chicago, Carrie is routinely in the very top 10, and that includes teams and all sorts of other people that really aren't her exact peers, but she is, as an agent, one of the very, very top producing agents in Chicago. She's a true superstar and expert in everything from first-time home buyers, veteran investors, and luxury properties. She's also in the newspaper a lot with all these cool properties she gets to represent. She also works with a lot of developers and is often chosen to represent them at their high-end developments. I live in one of those developments. That's how much of a fan I am of Carrie's. And please visit Carrie at Carrie McCormick RE. But more importantly, follow her on Instagram. She does it all herself, and it is probably the best Instagram account I've seen in Chicago for real estate agents, which is Carrie McCormick Real Estate. Link in the show notes. Carrie, welcome once again to the show.
Thank you so much. I think as the years go by, my intro gets longer and longer. Wait till I'm 100 years old.
Well, with age comes wisdom.
That's
But it's funny too. I think about this a lot. Like, we really, not that you're not an older person in this industry at all, but I do think that there is a lot of wisdom in people that have been doing this a long time. And
100%.
just we are so lucky to have you on the show because 24 years is pretty impressive, and you're not slowing down. You're still at the very top of the mountain. So I love chatting with you because you help me in particular keep my cool when things seem to be really chaotic. You're like, we've been through this before. You've seen many cycles. So excited to get your thoughts, today. But
Yeah.
yeah, what would you like to talk about?
Well, I mean, just on that note, I think, I do enjoy getting older, I have to say, because I do become wiser and I can anticipate all the curves in the road and, all the changes in the industry. And obviously, confidence in our industry is a big thing, and it's very different than ego, right? So there's a big difference between someone who's very egotistical or someone who's extremely confident. So I think
Yeah.
it's important for people to understand the difference between the two. And I do think, especially now that things are changing in our industry, and not just even in the industry, but it's also just in the world, right? We've got AI coming at us, technology keeps changing. Believe it or not, where in my generation I started with, Yahoo or AOL, and then Google comes along, and now a lot of a new generation is using TikTok. They're using YouTube as their search engine and to get information, right? So you it's important for all out of our comfort zone. And that's the hardest thing to do, no matter who you are, what industry you are in, and what you do. Is change is hard, and getting out of your comfort zone is super hard. So I think we're having a content and tech warfare right now in the world, again, with all of this AI and all the different platforms that are on there. And one analogy that I like to use is a surfer. I'm not a surfer, but I love this analogy because it's, a surfer will live for that big wave to come, right? And once that big wave comes, you have a choice. You can either ride the wave and you can, have the best time of your life and succeed, or you can sit and watch the wave go by you or get devastated by that wave, right? And I look at that analogy as what's happening right now in our world. And that's what I'm saying. Get out of your comfort zone and embrace it. And you have to future proof your business and, get on board with this. There's also what I'm seeing is what I call a generational divide,
Mm.
right? So in my generation, never disclose my age, but in my generation or older, if your parents used a certain doctor, your parents use a certain CPA, wealth manager, the kids automatically kind of use that, right? And there's a lot of industries that were dependent like your wealth manager, like they're dependent on the family that they had, that the kids are going to use them and the kids are going to use them, and the whole family is going to use them. Well, that is, I think, has changed, or is changing, I should say. Is, I work with a lot of younger home sellers and home buyers that they don't want to use their parents' realtor, right? Because
Hmm.
the parents' realtor, sold or did business in the 80s, 90s, even early 2000s, right? And that broker, which I was in the 90s as a broker, they just don't operate the same. So we have to look at this new generation and how they do business, how they're searching and buying real estate. Again, I mentioned TikTok. They use YouTube. They text. They DM. Again, it's completely different. So we, as real estate agents, it's a time to pivot and it's a time to adapt. It's hard, and it's hard to keep up with all of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot about communication is we know that communication typically is the most important sort of
Right.
quality between the relationship of a realtor and their client, whether it's during the transaction, before the transaction, after the transaction. Staying in communication is really the hallmark of any good relationship. And the way that people communicate changes. So now, whereas I grew up on email, and that
Mm.
was what I thought was the best way to communicate, well, now that most of the agents at our company, when we send a company-wide email to our realtors, they don't read it. So we're
Right.
like, okay, we better send an SMS too
Right.
because we know that they're going to see that before they see the email. And as much as I hate the fact that they don't
Right.
check their email, I can hate it all day long, and it doesn't change the fact that they're not checking their email. So I have to adjust if I want to communicate effectively to my agents.
Right. And even, if you do send an email, it's the length of the email, right? I'm a very bullet point person. That's just my personality. And again, attention span has changed as well, right? If I drafted a 3 paragraph email, they're not going to read through it. It's just they're going to go to the bottom of that email. So again, trying to understand the psychology of people's decision making is something we have to to navigate. But also, I think you mentioned communication. I think that is super important, and coming up with a solid communication plan for people and having good people skills, reading the room, understanding people's personalities, staying in communication with them, and offering, this is an old school one, but it's so true, is offering value when you can. Because the client, every year, and, do you want to move? Do you want to buy? No one wants to be sold to,
Right.
right? And, I still get these emails from, whether it's a car company or whatever it is that I purchased, and it's so rude. Give me some information about, I don't know, something that's of value to me.
Yeah,
So,
and the cool thing too is that realtors do have access to a lot of value added tools.
mhm,
For example, the simplest one that comes to mind that I think most homeowners are always interested in is, what's my home worth?
right,
Now, we can wait for people to seek that out on their own, and they can find a million websites that will give them, some estimate, or we could be proactive and say, "Hey, I was thinking about you, Mr. and Mrs. Client, and I just wanted you to get an update from me about where I think things are headed and where your property is headed." And again, that to me, that's value. I love things like that.
I do too. So, having good, people skills is still going to be important. We talked a little bit about that communication plan. I think that's important as far as, follow up. We spend so much money to acquire the client or to find the client, whether, through all of marketing. And once we have it, um, we got to hold on to it, and holding on to it with communication. Uh, and again, going just back to having confidence is a best way to hold on to that business.
Yeah, I what I love is when I'm reaching out to someone for support, whether it's a company or a doctor's office or something. I need something from one of the vendors I use in my life. And I love when they say, "How do you prefer to be responded to?" Where
Yeah,
it'll say phone, text, or email, and then time of day. Sometimes they'll ask. I love that, and so I know realtors. This is an opportunity for you to ask your clients, "Hey, when do you prefer it? Do you prefer a
Mm.
phone call, an email, a text? When do you have weird hours? Also, do you have religious situations where you don't, on certain days, you don't want to be communicated with, or you're not able to, or maybe it's a holiday that I'm not aware of, things like that. I think all of those things are really, really helpful. And then you just keep a little, track of who needs what when.
Yeah, we do that, and it's become it's kind of funny because like each person has their profile of like their kids' nap times and when they go to bed, and this person, husband wants to be texted, wife wants email. Don't call her during this time, but call him, and it's just like you look at it and it's like a menu of this person, but at the end of the day, um, they are happy about it, right? Because
Oh,
we're following
sure.
their protocol. And it again, when I talked about the beginning of getting out of the comfort zone and this, the tech warfare that's out there and the content warfare, don't forget just the humanity of our business, right? And it's still just being kind to people. And some people have gone such the tech route of not even talking to the clients, like right, it's whether I'm texting them, DMing them, or however it is. It's don't forget just to be a real human and be kind to
I
people.
I got an AI recruiting call for another brokerage yesterday. Have you got any of those?
I
Like,
did.
I just got one the other day and it was so painfully bad. It
Hmm.
wasn't even close to good. If it was good, I'd be like, okay, that was good. So we need to remember that we're not quite there with AI yet. So be careful what you're automating. I think too is
Sure.
if it's not coming through in your voice. I
Right.
don't. I don't mean actual your voice, but I mean your
Right.
writing voice. Your if it's communicating in a way that you wouldn't, then
Right.
do not use it because people see through that in a second, and they really just want to feel that you care about them. So whatever you can do to demonstrate care, like you were saying something very important, like somebody, for example, a new mother's feeding schedule, or approximately when she may not be busy. That she is going to be so flattered when you say, "Hey, I didn't want to call you during this. I know that was your feeding time. I wanted to be respectful of that." I mean, nobody does that, right? That is a huge, huge value add. You can
Yeah.
just do value just by doing that.
Right. Except when you forget the feeding schedule and you call them during the middle of it.
Well, then you
But
say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Did I catch you in the middle of a feeding
right.
time?" But the point is that you care enough to even think about it or to ask about it, and I
Right.
think that's really what people want. I have one last question. I know we'll wrap this up, but this is a big question, and you are such an avatar here in Chicago. You really are so well respected, not just here, of course, a lot of markets, but people want to know: are realtors in trouble with these new changes that are happening? I don't want to get into the changes, but
Yeah.
do you think we're on the way out? Is there anything
No,
that's suggestive that realtors won't be needed?
absolutely not. I totally disagree with that. Again, it goes back, yes, there's going to be change that's going to occur, and then we're going to have to pivot. But there's such a um, humanity or not humanity, there's such a human touch to what we do and the knowledge that we offer our clients. There's no way we're being replaced whatsoever. Again, there's going to be change, and um, you know the way we have to handle our business will change. The good brokers will survive. In any industry, when there's big change like that, I don't want to say weeding out people in a bad way, but there's some people that just do this part-time or for fun. Those people may say, well, forget it, I'm not going to do this anymore, which is fine, but we're still going to be needed.
Yeah, and also too, the experience of the agent is so critical. With experience comes wisdom, and you, in particular, have been through many market cycles. So, if I was buying a property that is maybe my largest financial purchase of my life, or certainly one of them, do I want the brand new agent who's never done a deal before to be my agent? Well, probably not. If I had to choose, I'd probably choose somebody who's been through a lot of experience, who can say, I know what this is. I've seen this. I've done this. Here's where we're at. Don't worry, I've got it. And
Right.
and that it's just like if I go to a doctor, I don't, I had the LASIK eye surgery many, many, many years ago. And the guy's like, yeah, this is like my 12,000th surgery. I was like,
Right.
cool, cool.
Or
It's
you
not your
might be your
50th.
Right. Or this is the first one I've ever done.
Right, right. No, thanks.
Nope.
And by the way, I don't mean to suggest if you're a brand new agent, you
Right.
can't find business. That is not what I'm suggesting. You can. You just have to work a little harder, and you have to demonstrate. And you probably should consider getting mentored or getting partnered by somebody. Partner with somebody like a Carrie who's like, speaking of that, guys, for everyone who is listening, we're going to wrap this episode up. But if you have clients that either move into Chicago or the Chicagoland area, or maybe are places where people move out from Chicago to Florida, Texas, Arizona, Colorado, wherever, South Carolina, sometimes, if you're in some of these what we call feeder markets where people go to and from, reach out to Carrie. She gets a lot of business, and she has a lot of business to hand out because her clients move too. So Carrie, if there is an agent that wants to connect with you, what would be the best way where they could do that?
Yep. So I'm always available, 312-961-4612, or you can email me. It's Carrie@com. I'm sure it's going to be somewhere in here.
We'll
Uh,
have it in the show notes for sure. And Carrie's super easy to she works all the time. She's pretty much always available, and she's always busy. So we're gonna let her get back to her busy day closing crazy deals. Congratulations, just as a on behalf of our audience. Which what they don't know is Carrie is having one of the it might even be your best year ever, or certainly right up there. So congratulations, 24 years and still crushing it. Is I don't know anyone else who's currently doing that. So congratulations to you. You're amazing. And you come on our show every month as just being a generous, sweet person. And we thank you for that. So on behalf of everyone, we thank Carrie. And on behalf of Carrie and myself, we thank you, the audience. We appreciate you. You're the reason we do this show. Please support our sponsors. Please tell a friend about this episode. And we will see everybody on the next one. Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you.